Hello, everyone. Hi, today it is May the 26th, 2014, and welcome to the Holy Shift Show. And I can see that I have the wrong I have the wrong overlay up, so excuse me for un momento while I put up the right overlay. There we go. Now we'll try it from square one. It's today. Welcome into Hangout Land, whether you're watching us live or replay on Google Plus or on YouTube. Welcome to the Holy Shift Show. I'm Elaine Nieberding. This is episode 27 of the Holy Shift Show, and I've called this episode Enter the Zone! Exclamation point, question mark. What zone? Well, I really didn't mean the Twilight Zone. I meant the approval zone. But I figured by putting up the Twilight Zone thing on a little trailer, I get some people's attention, you know. But we really want to go beyond the area of twilight and mystery into the area of expansive joy, safety, service, and connection. And that is what this hangout is about today. I have two of my three guests here with me now. I'm going to introduce them in a minute. And ticking on down a little bit later in the hour, my third guest will be joining me. I'll tell you a little bit about her in a moment. But right now I'd like to say hello to my bi-coastal buddy, Robin Holland. Robin, where are you hanging out from?
I'm hanging out from Santa Cruz, California, and it's trying to be sunny out there. It's not quite sunny yet.
Oh, it's not quite sunny. Okay. Yeah. But you're sunny.
I'm sunny. I'm always sunny.
You choose that. And thank you for being the reflection of my sunny self.
You're welcome.
And then joining me, my across the ocean buddy, is Dave Moore. Dave, where are you hanging out from?
Hi, Elaine. Well, I'm in East Sussex, in the middle of Ashdown Forest. And, yeah, the sun didn't come out today. But it very rarely ever does in the UK. When we do, we just grab every opportunity for it. So, yeah, it's good to be here and good to be invited. Thanks for inviting me along. And it's a pleasure, as I said, to always be in the Holy Shift Show.
So, thank you. So, it's an interesting topic, this whole thing about experiencing approval, and especially self-approval, self-appreciation, self-love, self-acceptance. Isn't it interesting how the word approval and appreciation, you know, both start with the same three letters, APP. And so my wish is that at the end of this show that everybody who's watching might have opened up to accepting through the ethers like a new personal little app, something that you, when you are noticing even the slightest instance that you're in your self-criticism mode, putting yourself down, or also in a dynamic where you're noticing your dynamic with another person is disapproval, judgment, distancing, and all that stuff, that you have something that immediately is going to come into your awareness so you can make a shift back into self-approval, balance, expanded awareness, and even extending approval in a meaningful way to the other one that you happen to be with. So we might even subtitle this program today, not What's Up, but What's Up. What's up? And on the banner that I created for this show, I was led to put a stoplight on it. And so for all of you who are watching today, consider or inquire of yourself as you're going about your day today. Are you in a state of balance? Are you in a state of feeling kind of okay about you, you know? the divine one, the unique one that you are, here like on planet Earth at this very interesting time in human history? Are you feeling good right now? On whatever pathway you're journeying, are you feeling pretty good, pretty strong? Or is your sense of being in the approval zone, is it like you're getting there? There's a green light? Or there's a yellow light, there's something kind of slowing you down from getting into the approval zone? Or do you feel really stuck, like it's difficult to get there? And in fact, you pretty much feel like changing direction and want to go in the other way. Like the approval zone can't even get there. Let me start with my friend Dave. Dave, unmute. So Dave.
Yes.
Do you think being in the approval zone is something that can be automatic, or is it a skill that you kind of have to cultivate with different practices?
I think it depends entirely upon whose approval you seek. If you're seeking the approval of somebody else, I mean, you can never ever please everybody. If you set about pleasing everybody, you will please no one, including yourself. If you can please yourself and get your own approval for your actions, knowing that you're not going to do anything that's going to be illegal or that's going to scare the horses in the street, you know, that's fine. I have a community, as you know, you're a member of it, and I have a very limited amount of rules on there, because one of the main rules on there is if you have to be told what's correct and what's proper and what's right to write on here, you shouldn't even be in charge of a computer. And so I think if we sit within the comfortable norms and the rules and the guidelines that everybody is governed by, or elects to be governed by, how we act and portray ourselves and how we hold ourselves out to be can either be accepted or not. As long as it's our authentic self, as long as it's our real, true self that we're interacting with people with, and not pretending to be anything else. And if we're accepted, fine. If we're not, fine. That's my sort of philosophy on it. You know, as long as you're true to yourself, people will gravitate to you, or they'll gravitate away. If you cannot please everybody, and you can't really seek the approval of all. If you got the approval of everybody, they should put you in charge of the world.
So Dave, by what you're saying, it suggests to me that you're agreeing with me. It really does start with self-acceptance and self-approval. And to the extent that you're able to be in that place, then your sense of participating in the world, taking risks, trying new things, you certainly might be engaging with people and get responses, but you're not attached to your feeling good if they're responding in a particular way that says, "Oh, you're wonderful."
I think I think we do we agree on a lot of things, obviously, but this I think we do, because if you want to be loved, or if you want to be liked, or if you want to be listened to or understood by anybody, you have to like, love, listen to, and understand yourself. And the moment that you do that, then everybody else that is right for you, everybody else that has an affinity, a vibration that's in tune with you, that's going to connect. But the first step is always yourself. It's very similar to a conversation. It might take a minute, but it's a conversation I had with somebody where we were in a bar, and this girl walked in who was stunning, absolutely beautiful girl. The sort of girl who sucks the air out of the room, and everybody went, wow. The guy that she was with looked like he'd just got off of a slab in the middle of a thunderstorm with somebody shouting, "It's alive!" You could not put the two of them together. And you think, wow, that's a combination. That this girl is sort of like almost a 10. Well, if you're looking at people like that, and this guy is a little way down the evolutionary scale of looks. A forehead, you know, knuckles scraping on the floor. And a friend of mine said, how the hell did they get together? And I said, it's very simple, like all relationships. It's how he makes her feel when she is with him. And if people feel comfortable with you, if people understand what you're saying, if people believe what you're saying, if people trust you, that's something that you have to emanate. And you can only do it if you're confident and comfortable with yourself. Then you don't have to seek the approval when it comes.
Yeah. Oh, that was an interesting example. Robin, in a minute, well, I want to hear whatever thoughts are bubbling on up for you, and then I'm going to say hello to some of the people who are showing up, some of our flockers, and also mention who else is going to be on the show today. So, hi, Robin.
Hey, Elaine and Dave. That was really good. Oh, sounds gravelly in my voice. Yeah, I think self-approval is a really, really big deal. And I think culturally we are trained to get our approval from outside. So there's some amount of time that some or all of us have to spend, or an investment in becoming able to approve ourselves. And to do that means we have to take courageous steps, we have to do things that might risk the approval of others. And in so doing, we discover our own self-approval. It's like taking the courageous step is what actually brings us to know ourselves in a way that creates that approval and that respect. If we're looking outside for it, and that's what we do from childhood on, in school and all of that, it ultimately becomes unsatisfying.
So, Robin, has there been a practice or two that have been meaningful for you? If you notice you're kind of getting in the funky place, not approving of yourself, that you might utilize to kind of get you back on track and saying, I'm okay?
Yeah, I think just slowing down and breathing is a good starting point, because that is a way to let go of some of this contraction and let some air and some light in. It's the thought process that gets us to self-judgment, and it's just that thing that's always going, that chattery thing. I have a pretty good chatterer up there. And so if I take a breath, sometimes it's certainly the good start. And you know what? Even sometimes I'll just take a look at a beautiful rose or smell it. Go to the senses and do something a little different, disruptive. And then, of course, I do have a self-appreciation practice that I do on a consistent basis that helps me a lot.
Yeah, and we may get into talking more about some of those things that you and I have been exploring recently and supporting each other in. Mm-hmm. I'm going to take a moment now to also say the third member of our panel is Dawn Nocera. She's going to be joining us maybe in another 10 minutes or so. And so we may extend the show just a little bit longer. We'll see, since she's joining us later, and we'll see how the flow of this is going to go. But I want to say hi because I see my flockers showing up. Deborah Rock is saying, I am here. I made it, Elaine. Wow, I've missed your show. We're really happy to see you back, Deborah. And Jeremy Murphy is saying, approval, interwoven with confidence, creates empowerment, which results in action. And that's it. We often we want to feel like we are moving in the world. We're not just stiff and stagnant, but we're putting forth our gifts and our connections forth in the world by taking action. So that was really nice, Jeremy. And Dave Pipe is here. Oh, hold on. He says, evening from Sussex. I'm a bit late as I've been having a discussion with BT about my limp broadband. Oh, Let's send a little love to Dave Pipe's limp broadband. Anyway, that was a funny word, Dave.
That was counted up a lot of images. Thanks for that.
Okay. Yeah, let's resurrect that broadband. Let's lift that broadband. Yeah. Let's expand that broadband. Right. I want to say hi to Skip Bieber. He was making a reference to he liked the Twilight Zone trailer. Indeed, that was an attention getter. And then we have Ron. Oh my goodness, I lost my screen. Hang on, I'm coming back, folks. Here we have Ron Schneeberger. Well, Ron is here. I was trying to pin his thing. You're hearing me click, 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 click. Anyway,
that sounds like Fred Astaire, I think, in the next move.
Yeah, but now I have to unpin Skip Bieber. Here we go. I'm back. I'm back. Okay, so let me share with you folks what prompted this as a topic. Most folks that I know who are, in service to others also have their own teachers, guides, mentors, and coaches. And I happen to be working with Ann Timpany. She's a joy coach, and she's been on the Holy Shift Show a couple times. And so in some of the work we're doing together and recently begun, she had me go to the Gallup Strength Center and do a little self-inquiry inventory called the 5 Strengths. Like, what are my 5 core strengths? And it was a very interesting and revealing exercise for me, because one of the arenas that I have a lot of self-judgment, self-disapproval about is my collections of stuff. And while I can always seem to find what I'm looking for in my home, some areas are organized, but some of them are definitely chaotic. And I know there is stuff here which needs to be let go of. There's stuff I've been attached to. But when I went through this strengths inventory with her, one of my 5 strengths was this strength area called input. And I'm going to read it. So especially for all of you who also have physical clutter issues of saving either too much stuff or too many books or papers, you may take solace in, if this is an area of yours, if you start looking at it and reframing it, you might begin to feel more accepting and approving of yourself. So this whole thing about input, people who are exceptionally talented in the input theme area have a craving to know more often, to know more, and often they like to collect and archive all kinds of information. Well, I do like to do that. So people like me, we're inquisitive, we input hoarders, we collectors. They always want to know more, crave information, like to collect certain things such as ideas, books, memorabilia. Oh yeah. And quotations or facts. Why do we do it? Well, because it interests us. And so we have natural curiosity and find many things interesting. The world is exciting precisely because of its infinite variety and complexity. A few minutes of surfing the internet may turn into hours once the curiosity takes off. Well, yeah, I've gone there too. So what I basically want to say about this is this exercise helped me shift out of a place of self-condemnation that bottles me up if I'm walking through a room and in an area where I have a lot of stuff collected that hasn't been sorted and put away. Instead of judging it now, I release the judgment from it. And then as I do that, when I'm out of the place of self-condemnation, I'm more likely to actually even notice the days or the times when there is energy there to keep my focus of attention and work on cleaning up, organizing, or throwing stuff out. And so for each one of you, you might want to consider even exploring this strengths inventory to discover what are your strengths. And maybe you'll find, like me, that there's one of them which seemed to be the flip side of an area that I was always judging myself for. Dave, any comments on that kind of thing? Have you used inventories like this as you work with people?
Sort of. When we work with people in the seminars, we tend to focus on what they think they're bad at. The reason being is that we, as human beings, we tend to consider, like, where did it all go wrong? Why didn't that work? You know, we get caught up in all of those sort of things. So we work with people to discover where they think they're lacking, and whatever's left is their strength, and they eliminate it all themselves. It's readdressing the balance, as you said, reframing it. I fall foul of it because I gather a lot of information and stuff. I classify it as stuff. And if I had a big filing cabinet with a header on the file saying stuff, everything would be in it. Because I sometimes wish that I could Google my house. Because if I need to find something, you know, you can find it on the internet. But if I could just Google in my house, it would tell me where something is. Because with the best will in the world, I have my own eclectic filing system in my head, and also in my files and in my life, and only I can really decipher it. And I think that's very much like everybody. Everybody has this way of linking things to other things, and so putting something in one place because something else is there. The two may have no correlation, may have no connection to 99.9 recurring of the world, except you, and you are the only one who can fit it together. I like the idea of finding what people's strengths are. I mean, when I've taken the programming that we run into prisons and into schools, I tested it in. I found something when I was at school. I get my grades, and it would say you've got an A in English, a B in art, and a D in maths. You know, you need to work on your math. No, I don't. You know, it was, why do I need to work on my math? I haven't got an affinity with maths. If I want maths, I've got a calculator. I've got an accountant. You know, why do I need math? The affinity really is what you're good at, your strength, and that's what you should. I was never ever going to be a mathematician. So if I'd spent like 2 or 3 years at college studying math, I would have come out and still done exactly what I was doing now, what I'm doing now. I would not be a mathematician. Focusing on our strength, finding what our strengths are. Sometimes some of our strengths, we don't realise that they're our strengths. There's other people that realise that they're our strengths. It's like our what we consider to be our faults are looked at sometimes as to being attractive by other people. We look in the mirror and say, "Oh, I look horrible." You know, other people would find us attractive. We look at what we do. Why did I do that? But it might have been the right thing to do. We constantly judge ourselves. But knowing that there's a ground rule, some ground or guidelines there as to what's good and what's bad, what's right, what's wrong, what our strength is and what our weaknesses are. It's not necessary that we have to strengthen our weaknesses. Sometimes it's just the fact that we don't have to go into that area. We don't have to work on our weaknesses.
David, as you're speaking, it makes me want to ask a question for Robin, and that is about this idea that once we know our strengths, and there are areas that we don't, you know, let's say in entrepreneurial activity, there are areas where we don't feel like we are strong, or we don't have the curiosity or interest to do those kind of tasks. then it sounds like we need to give ourselves permission to engage other people to like help us.
Yeah, definitely. Before I go there, though, I do want to say that I think it's really interesting that when you went into taking StrengthsFinder and before you talked to Ann about it, you had that your strength, really one of your powerful strengths, was a flaw. And I think it was helpful to have someone else help you see that. And a lot of times we do that. We take the thing that's the most important to us or something that's really, really part of our essence, and we make it wrong. Sort of hide it from ourselves. So I think, number one, being with some other folks who can help you see your strengths is really good. Getting the feedback, not being completely alone, and then you can start self-approving that. And then on the other side, yeah, we do have things we just don't want to do. They don't light us up. Math, for Dave. I'm not the biggest fan of math, although I did discover at a certain point there's ways to do math that actually do work for me, and I like keeping track with some math. But don't ask me to create a software program like my husband. Forget it. But I think, yeah, getting some team to help us is, and some of us even should be having, doing the thing that you're a 10 on 10 about, thing that you love to do, and even letting the 8s and the 7s and the 6s, the 9s go to somebody else that's their 10, is a way that everybody is optimized, that everybody's doing what they love to do. So that's kind of a neat way to have the universe work.
Yeah. And I love this whole idea of, getting folks that kind of know each other well from hanging out in the same communities, but may not talk with each other personally often. It might be a lot of fun to get together and share feedback. Like, the thing that I notice about you that's really amazing is blank. And when you ask people to do that kind of sharing, sometimes there's amazing stuff revealed that, once again, you never really see in yourself. And also, sometimes just having other people show up is great. So, for example, as Hangout hosts, it occurred to me, yeah, sometimes when I'm getting ready for a show, I'll acknowledge people who have already signed up as yes or maybe, but some weeks I don't do that. Today I decided I really want to tap into all those people who are just really curious to be here and connect energetically and with our wisdom and our questions and share things. And I had fun doing that at 12:15 today. And so now I also want to go back and acknowledge a couple more people who are here today, because together we kind of make this show and create this container of space where the sparks fly and the questions emerge and that kind of good stuff. So Ron Schneeberger is back here. He says, you need to know when to delegate. Yep. Got to learn how to do that. And also step into more of that abundance mindset that says, and I am having the means, or the means are coming to me, so that if I need to hire people and delegate stuff, I don't go back into this self-judgment thing. I'm not abundant. I can't get help. I'm too poor. I'm too poor to hire everybody. To hire someone. I got to do it all myself. Here's Skip Bieber again. He says, there's a new app idea, house inventory of a Google search.
I want that product. I'm going to mention that to some folks over in Silicon Valley.
I'm going to have a look. I'm just going to make sure, Skip, if it isn't on the app downloads, it's not on the App Store here. Oh, there is one. What's this?
Is there really?
App, yeah. Google search your house. It's been registered by somebody called Skip Bieber. What's going on here? He's got in before we all could.
Yeah, and I also want to say hello to I think a new watcher today, Hypnosystem UK's Ericksonian hypnosis and hypnotic sound healing. They're here, and they're saying, we're watching from the YouTube channel link, and good evening from Market Harborough, UK. I really love having this nice following in the UK, like it's evening for them, You know, sometimes it's kind of hard figuring out when to do these hangout shows because, you know, like the people in the UK, you know, if their work day is kind of done, we're getting nice people show up. So let's unpin this. Here we go. So I'd like to take a moment now to talk about this one resource that I'm utilizing more and more to, once again, disengage my ego frame of reference and operate in my daily life more from an expanded sense of conscious awareness, from this noticer, wise, loving place. And so the technique and tool that have been working with recently is called the release technique. And once again, it is a modern day expression of the work of, I'll call him an American awakened guy, Lester Levinson, whose personal public work was through the 1950s, I guess through the late 1960s. And then others carried on his work that emerged as the Sedona technique or the Sedona method. And then Larry Crane has brought the work forward in this thing called the release technique. And Larry Crane, as he describes it, says, whenever you're having difficulty, resistance, contraction, it's like your ego frame of reference is wanting kind of one of three things. It's wanting approval, it's wanting safety, you know, or it's wanting control. And so this whole thing, exploring that, has made me so much more aware of, in my own way, how I have been needing or seeking external approval. And now I'm coming to recognize that it really is for me to, from my highest place, from my expanded mind or wise heart, just come into a place of peace and acceptance. And when I was with Anne last week, we had this neat exercise that we did to each other, where once again I was exploring my difficulty with clutter, and we started using laughter yoga and intentional laughing as a way to get out of the mental chatter and create a space where a technique, a very personalized technique, would emerge for me. So when I noticed myself in a place of disapproval and judgment about my collections or my clutter, that I would have a way to disengage that. And here is the thing that emerged. I imagine that whenever I was in this place of self-judgment, I would have a system of airbags within me, and they would be so sensitive that upon the slightest bit of, you know, resistance and self-judgment going on, these airbags would inflate. Now my airbags happen to be in like the pockets of whatever garment I'm wearing. And when these airbags inflate, they reveal to me these pockets full of like fairy dust. And I can't miss them. I cannot ignore them. They just inflate. And so whenever I notice I'm in this self-judgment, I just reach my hands into the fairy dust, the glitter, the sparkle stuff, and I imagine I'm just putting it on my environment, my cluttered pile of papers, the sprawl of stuff that's in my, you know, my son's bedroom, and it's not there anymore, so it becomes a dumping ground. And I just sprinkle it on and laugh. And so I'm wondering now, it's like, Robin, would you be willing to, you know, just let kind of bubble up one area that you'd like to shift your disapproval about?
Let's see.
A little one. A little one.
Oh, you caught me. Let's see. Well, let's talk about the self-disapproval just in a global way. I mean, I can instantly go to, well, you sure screwed that up.
Okay, Robin.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm going to take a deep breath in, and I'm gonna take my fairy dust, and I'm just gonna sprinkle it all over me, and sprinkle it all over you, and take a deep breath in.
Does that mean I'm just
gonna invite the audience to just kind of laugh with me. And you know what? If you don't want to laugh out loud, then just take a deep breath in and plant a smile on your face. And on the exhale, just imagining, just happy stuff coming out, or crap coming out, just being released, just being let go of. And your environment shifting, your self-disapproving thoughts just trickling away, and getting back into a place where maybe you could touch your creativity and your joy again. So you're just invited to do this with me. Just take a deep breath in. And Dave, I'm throwing a lot of it on you. One of these days I'm going to have to get you to crack up.
We just need to know the right joke for Dave.
Yeah. Well,
you're going to have to throw that harder than that. You've got a big ocean to get that across. You're going to have to fire it over here.
I'm going to have to fire it on over. Yeah. Okay? Yeah. I'm going to fire it on over.
Send it to me and I'll download it.
And download it. Okay. Yeah. So let me jump back over and see if we have any other folks in the comment stream. Ah, we do. We have Kristen Drysdale. She has arrived. She said, I had to run out, but I came right back. This is such a great conversation. And then she says, I love that, Skip Beaver and Dave Moore. I need that app too. Yep, apparently a lot of us do. So it would be amazing if we could declutter our brains, declutter our homes, and live with more freedom. And at this beautiful moment in time, day of May 26, 2015, we now have the arrival. She's teleported in. It's Dawn Knows Sarah. Hey there, Dawn. How are you doing?
Awesome, awesome.
Where are you hanging out from, Dawn? Some folks don't know you.
Oh, introductions. Hi, I'm Dawn Knows Sarah, and I love to help luminaries appreciate themselves and grow their business. Really short.
Really short. And so, once again, Robin and I have known Dawn over the last, I don't know, probably a year and a half now, because we all started learning about doing Hangouts together around the same time. And we've all been exploring them in our own unique ways. But Dawn, who does coaching and speaking and is an author, in the last year, Dawn, I understand that you've really gotten clarity as you've been willing to listen about the expansion and movement of your own work.
Yep.
That now your primary focus of your work is this whole thing about self-approval and self-appreciation. And could you describe that in terms of, the words that you use, really like connecting with your DNA?
Oh, yeah. Well, what I have come to understand is that as we appreciate ourselves, we give ourselves permission to, it's really activating our DNA, which is divine natural alignment, as I've come to understand it. And it's really beautiful because when you start to appreciate yourself, or when you are in the state of appreciation, you're open to that natural state of alignment. And anything else other than appreciation for yourself puts you out of alignment. And it's it seems really simple, but doing the work is not the easiest thing. You think, oh, I could just appreciate myself and, magic will happen. And that's true. However, society has given us all kinds of information that says we shouldn't brag, that it is bragging if we appreciate ourselves, that if we're appreciating ourselves, that means that other people are perceiving themselves or us as being better than everyone else, which is not the case. So it's been an ongoing journey of understanding just what it takes to actually do the work of appreciation. And you guys are doing it really well.
Dawn, I really like that the words approval and appreciate, they're kind of like cousins.
They are.
They both start with APP. And when I think of the word appreciate, and when I'm doing wordplay, I'll say, well, like, what other word has, like, appreciate in it? Like, depreciate. And so then I think, oh, it's related to maybe like the word precious.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, if I could just feel into my own preciousness.
Yeah.
Like, if I was lucky enough to be born into a family with like a loving mother and a loving father, and be held as that new emergent one, and just being looked down on and saying, oh, you are just so precious. You're so precious. So I love the fact that you are really focusing on appreciation and this preciousness and preciousness. Yeah. Say something else.
I love it. I love the fact that you brought up this, the approval and preciousness, and like the reason I was late is because we're walking my daughter out of school today, her very last day of high school. So she's getting ready to graduate, but today was her very last day. And watching her walk out, and somebody asked me, how do you process this information? Like not the information, but how do you process, or what are you doing to support yourself with the firstborn being gone? And for me, the answer is, self-appreciation. This is what I've come to understand, is like everything I do is, can I appreciate myself through this pain or the emotions that are just coming up out of nowhere. But being aware of that preciousness, that is so, and I've always said it's about learning to honor yourself and see your own value. That's really what self-appreciation is. Because if the word appreciate talks about a value. Can you see your own value, and can you watch it grow? And when you can witness your own growth in that way, it's really beautiful. That you don't need the approval from somebody else, but you're giving yourself, you're giving yourself appreciation, you're giving yourself acceptance. That's another word I think that you brought up. Giving yourself acceptance of what is, and really appreciating whatever is going on right now, just for the fact that you are the one going through it. And it's precious when you really think about it. Life is precious. So
what you brought up in talking about this poignancy of seeing your daughter at this stage, she's ending one chapter, she's entering into a new one, and you as a parent, you have your own reflections on what parenting has been like, what that relationship has been like, what you've done well, what's been bumpy, blah, blah, blah. But the poignancy relates to the emotions that bubble up. And the question I want to throw out to anybody on the panel to respond to is this thing about appreciating ourselves, especially when unexpected emotions are surfacing, because we're so afraid of the judgments of others. If we let our emotions show and that vulnerability show, then we often want to squash it. So I'm inquiring to Dave or Robin for a reflection on that.
Well, I mean, I would say that as far as the judgment of others, as we were saying earlier, being true to ourselves and authentic with ourselves and being who we hold ourselves out to others to be, once we know who we are and we accept who we are and we're sure of ourselves, then the judgment of others, to my mind, is not something that we need to concern ourselves with. We get judged on our actions, and we get judged on what we say, what we do, how we respond to something. If we're true to ourselves and we are authentic, then we don't have to pretend to be anything else, and we can enter into some form of situation. I mean, I would say it's a lot of it is to do with choice, and I think it takes me back to when I looked at what this was about when I first got the invite to this. I think in the book 7 Keys to Freedom that Dawn participated in. I think it was in Will. I think not intuition, but will. When you said something about when we don't have to do something, we choose to do it, and it's a choice that we make. But that choice is based on hours, days, weeks, years of experience, and we very quickly understand what works and what doesn't, what's correct, what's wrong. And as long as we are 100% authentic to ourselves, we say what we believe to be true, we do what we think is right, we don't necessarily need the judgment of others, because the judgment of somebody else could be unqualified.
So, Dave, I have a question for you, because I really wanted to ask you about when emotions are bubbling up and you don't really expect them. For example, when you're running your seminars, or when you've been coaching people, have you ever had an experience where an aspect of emotional expression bubbled up within you, either anger or fear or something that was kind of unexpected? You didn't really anticipate it. How was that, or has that ever happened? I guess that's what I'm asking about here.
In the situation as one-to-one coaching, which I used to do as a trainer or as a coach, then there is always that occurrence is bubbling away under the surface. That it could happen because you get involved with somebody on a one-to-one basis. When I've got a group of 300 people, I can't afford to let that happen, because I can only respond in a manner that is going to help that person. And when they give me their BS about their lives, I can't buy into it. And as soon as I engage with something, it tends to get legs, and then it walks, and then it runs. It has to be stopped. The disempowering, the destructive element that people have when they come to the seminar because of things they need to address. If I ever take on board their fears, their emotions of it, if I take on board any of the emotional content to the extent that it affects me, I have to disassociate them from it. I can't disassociate them from it if it starts to affect me. If it's disempowering to them, if it's holding them back, if it's controlling them, if it's stopping them, if it's stalling them in their life, If it's pinning them down, if it's creating fear in them, I cannot engage in it to the extent that I give it any reality.
Yeah. So Dave, you found for you as an effective way of helping and encouraging transformation that some of your your systems and environments that you create are help people bubble stuff up, but then they're confronted to saying, but this isn't working.
They're confronted to the point where they say to themselves, no more.
Okay, but
I don't live there anymore.
Okay, but then once again, that's an example where it's like the behavior or the habit which might be being recognized as not effective. But a deeper truth of you is saying, but I approve of and I acknowledge that core of you that's hiding underneath the behavior, the habit, which apparently is disempowering, is keeping you small, is keeping you disconnected, is keeping you separate.
Sometimes something happens in somebody's life when they've created that scenario and it was useful, it worked for them at that time, but they continue to do it with whatever, and it's not relevant. It's their default. And the only thing with a default is the fault. That's the fault of it. It's the default. You keep using it, and it's destroying other things. It's like trying to delete a program on your computer. There's a way of deleting them. You can't just delete things because it will affect other programs that work in conjunction with it that you want. There is only one true way of deleting it off of a computer, and that is your add and delete program. If you just delete the thing, other systems in your computer, other things in your head won't work correctly.
Yeah. Okay. So let me get back to my same kind of question for you, Robin. I was asking about, when the emotions are coming up. How can we either honor ourselves or be present with another to help them shift out of a disempowering place?
Yeah.
Then for you and for the way you see it, how is the approval or the appreciation, how do you work it then to be truly helpful?
I think that if you put it all in the sort of category of resistance, and then say, okay, this is mental, but I know that this is resistance. But really, self-compassion is a sort of tunnel through, like, oh, I feel this emotion. I know Dawn and I have talked about this, with being parents, that I feel this emotion. I really feel this. And then, oh, can I love myself while I feel this and not make myself wrong for feeling it, knowing that I have a lot of time in my life where I don't feel this, but I feel this right now, and it's speaking to me, and it's not to indulge this, but it's to be compassionate in it and not make it wrong. And I know, Elaine, you and I, with this release technique, we say, sadness, I really love you, and just showering love on the sadness, having it become, it melts. Pouring love on ourselves, these things also, they sort of melt away. So I think that's the self-appreciation in a certain, it's one way of doing self-appreciation, is just to be compassionate. I feel this, and I'm not going to make myself wrong for feeling it. I'm not going to have a pity party forever, but hey, maybe I'll have a pity party for a little while. Something's going on. Why don't I see what it is and love myself through it?
And Dawn, I want to ask you, there's some healing and coaching methods which aim at setting a stage where emotions come up and it's okay, but what you try to help a person detach from is the story associated with it. Just let them have the feeling, like burn it out, bring the feeling to this place of love or acceptance or whatever, and then the energy of it gets set free, and it's disassociated from the story. And then, like, the story either can be reframed, repictured, or looked at in a different way without the same kind of unhealthy hook.
Right. It's really interesting, like what you're saying is absolutely true. And one of the reasons why, within the chapter on the memory, it's like it's so important that we understand that our stories really do create the way we respond or react to anything. It's just this, we're responding to a story we've attached to it. But when you are doing this work, and if you notice, most of the healing techniques, their whole goal is to get you to a state of release and back to state of love for yourself, right? Like tapping. I completely love and appreciate and accept myself. It's in there, it's not written out. The mirror work, we're to look at ourselves in the mirror and affirm that we love ourselves. All of this is to get us to a place where we can do that. What I find really interesting is that the real healing comes from just, can you go there first? Can you go to the state of self-appreciation first? Can you just appreciate the feelings, the emotions? And it's really freeing because it's your closest connection to yourself that's storyless, judgmental, like no judgment. It's and when you're in that state of true self-appreciation and self-love, there's no judgment, there's no story, there's just this, like Robin said, compassion for yourself. And we can still use our mental faculties to remind us to do that, to do the work, to give us the goal of, oh yes, appreciation and self-appreciation, self-approval, and letting go of what all is not for our highest good or our next level calling or the next frequency that we want to embody, or the next manifestation of what we're bringing in, the relationships, the new jobs, the new careers, the new clients that we want to take on. Letting go of that is so much easier when you're in a state of seeing your own value and, oh, I see that I'm equipped to move forward, instead of trying to come up with stories and recreate stories, which is very effective. It's all good. But I just find it interesting, like you brought up the fact that the healing is about releasing the story. And, if you really look at most of the healing techniques, they're most oriented to get you to the state of self-love.
Yeah. It occurs to me, there's probably a hangout in there to talk about this whole thing about story. There is so much about internet marketing and making effective connections with your audience by, like, telling your story. And it's like how we use these whole things about stories for a helpful purpose, but then there are other points when it comes to our own self and our own growth. We have to drop our stories.
And you'll find that when you are doing the work of self-appreciation, like those stories, just you just don't buy into them anymore. I don't know, Robin, I mean, I would love to hear what you have to say about that, but there's like something that happens is like you don't buy into your own BS anymore when you're really appreciating yourself. It's sort of like it just can't be in your consciousness when you're really in that state of appreciation for yourself, because you're like, that's really not so true.
Yeah, when you're tapping into your essence, who you really are. And it's funny because it's so available all the time. We just do get run around by thoughts and stories. So.
Yeah. So we're at 3:00, and Dawn joined us, around a half an hour ago. And boy, the time went far too quickly. So I'm going to be opening up the Flocka room in a minute, and I don't know if any of my guests can stay or not, but maybe. But let me give everybody an opportunity, meaning my guests, to just share a final thought or a takeaway about this thing of opening up and allowing yourself to be in the approval zone, the self-approval zone. And then if you have anything coming up that you want folks to know about, and especially you, Dawn, because you have some resources directly related, overtly related to this whole thing of self-appreciation, I would love for you to share. But let me start going back to Dave. Dave, are you there?
He's muted. Hi, Dave.
There's Dave. Hey, Dave.
Okay, yeah, takeaways from this. I think the approval zone is something that we are always aware of. We are inherently, naturally seek approval. We seek approval for our actions and what we do. We seek approval for who we are sometimes. But I think when we are truly ourselves, and we're not pretending, we're not acting like somebody else, when our qualities show through. And sometimes, as you said earlier, Elaine, we feel like we're stuck or we're pulled down or back because of ourselves not being approved by people. It's an issue, but I think as long as we are approving of ourselves and we accept ourselves for who we are, we can walk forward through the world with integrity and a quality that is truly unique. And I think the uniqueness of people, because we are all the same, but we are all the same in a very unique way. And by that I mean that we are unique. We are one-offs. No one can do us like we can. And it would be a shame if everybody was the same. But we have to either accept or we choose not to accept. Like I said, we cannot please everybody in the world. We will end up pleasing no one. But this has been a great hangout. It's always a pleasure to be on one of these shows. Okay, and so Dave is owner and host of the HPT Transformation Community, and so you can find links to those resources, and like if you're interested, he accepts some people. But it's a nice place to hang out, and follow Dave's posts because he'll keep you uplifted and stimulated with his blogs, and I know he's got some different workshops and things coming up this summer, so keep on the lookout. Thanks, Elaine. Checks in the post. Yep. And Robin, my darling, any things that rang true to you, or new awarenesses, or things you just want to reiterate about this topic of the approval zone and self-approval?
Yeah, I think the main one is that when it's the hardest to do is the best time to do it. Mm-hmm. And so if you're feeling self-judgmental about anything, if you can make it your go-to to say, I appreciate myself now, and see how to feel that. So it's not so much here, it's in the feeling. The most growth will happen, and the most startling and amazing realizations will happen. So that's what I've experienced, and even during this hangout, where I like told you, have a busy mind and different thoughts. Oh, I should have said that, or so and so. What's better? Comparison. These things, and the practice of self-appreciation when that's happening that's when it's powerful. So that is the main thing that I want to say and leave people with.
Thank you. I've just put up the link for the Flocker Room. So when we end the broadcast in just a few minutes, if you've been watching, please join us. And Dawn, I really want to say thank you for being your unique self, because the services that you have provided by hosting your Think and Grow Rich for Women exploration of Napoleon Hill's book, and also your empire building hangouts have been wonderful forums to explore everything about approval, experience of relationships, and bringing forth our own gifts into the world. And I've been gleaning all the way along from you, just lots of gems of wisdom. Anything else you have coming up for those who want to do some self-appreciation work, how they can do that with you?
Yeah, well, I will tell you, I have I'd love for everyone to try it out, because there's nothing, and even you can do it on the page. Just go to the try it out on the page. Just write one thing that you appreciate about yourself right now.
What page are you talking about?
On your page. You do it
okay.
On the Hangout
page.
You. And I'll also share a link where you can do it on Facebook. I know that this is not a Facebook community, so to say, but if you're on Facebook and you just want that place to go and post something, it's just what it is. It's just a simple page where people can go, and I just started it for people who aren't ready to join a group, but they just want to try it out. Just post in public. It's transformative to actually witness yourself posting something, writing something that you appreciate about yourself without caring who sees it, and without worrying about how are you going to be perceived in sharing that. So if you can do that on the page, also share a link for the Facebook page where you can do that as well. It's one of the things that we found is that, and most people that are doing this work, is that the ego has a really hard time with this work. It's the funniest thing. You'll hear the ego saying, is this just the ego, is this just the ego saying that you're great? Or and you check in with your soul. A really big part of the work of self-appreciation is learning to really trust your intuition and getting connected with yourself in that way, because from there you just know you know yourself intimately, and you know yourself intimately when you see yourself writing about what you truly value about yourself, and without judgment. And sometimes it's appropriate to write, I appreciate myself for landing a new client, or for preparing for this thing so beautifully, or for just making it through the day. It doesn't really matter what you're going through. And Robin said, usually when you're going through the toughest stuff is when it's the most transformative moments to actually do the work. That's the time when you actually get to shift your vibration by doing the work, and it's really magical. So I invite you to do it on the Holy Shift page, the one that you're viewing this from, or I'll share that Facebook link as well.
Right. And then Dawn's website is dawnnocera.com, DAWNNOCERA.com.
And you can see what else.
Great blogs there that you'll find about self-appreciation. Now I'm going to jump on over to my buddy Robin. Robin, I appreciate your sparkly self.
Thank you.
And how you're finding your own way to bring forth your gifts and help people, like, again, rediscover their spark, reignite things by self-appreciation, but it's also by you and other coaches that do this, being a really good listener and feeling into those things that people aren't paying attention to, and they're just missing. Anything you want to say? Other final thoughts, and how people can reach you?
Yeah, for anybody who's got a business that's feeling stuck, and if you do feel unconnected to your spark in your business, you can email me at robincreates@gmail.com, and we'll have a conversation and see what's happening there, and if we can be sparking that up a little bit. That's the main thing that I would like to say to people who are in business.
Yay, sparkles! So I'm going to end the show. I'm going to say hi to J.D. Quinchette, who just has tuned in rather late, so maybe she'll be listening from the beginning. And I also want to acknowledge Jeremy Murphy. He really listens closely, and Jeremy Murphy, I really appreciate you because you give really thoughtful comments and responses to what's going on in the show. He says, I agree with Elaine Nieberding that the abundance mindset is very significant as far as removing barriers from our lives, and acceptance of who we are, like the Shakespearean to thine own self be true, is also critical. Great distinction by Dave Moore between who we were and who we are presently. Thank you, Jeremy Murphy. And so now what I want to do is I want to bring up my little Hangout toolbox, and I want to bring on up, let's see, hold on, I want to bring up a little link for folks. For those of you that might be interested in exploring, identifying your strengths that you might not notice, just by buzzing through, it's like 100 questions or 144 questions. I think the test costs about $10 or less. It's a very interesting experience and tool, and one that you might find helpful. As I did, I discovered one of my areas of self-criticism and judgment really related to an area of strength of mine. So some of you might want to check that out. And then the other thing that I want to mention to people is this website, releasetechnique.com. There's a wonderful, it's like an introductory course to this whole release technique method. The thing is the abundance course. If you are curious to explore this idea of, every time I'm at resistance, might something be going on where, like, my ego, frame of reference, is wanting approval, control, or safety? You would like to shift out of a place of wanting and lack to having, and operating more from that place of expanded sense of self, beingness, whatever you want to call it. Just your highest place of expressive wisdom and action in the world. Then, it's an interesting tool to check out, and some of the programs they have on sale, like, they're all on sale with discounts through Memorial Day weekend, especially for the downloadable product. Some of you
I can attest that it's a good thing, because Elaine and I, she's alluded to this, we're doing this together, so there is definitely some great value to doing this little practice on a regular basis.
And for anybody that chooses to explore it, if you let us know, we might even have a hangout now and then, like a private one, where we just do some of this practice together. And it's definitely an offshoot of the kind of thing that Dawn offers. It simply takes another form. And the main thing is, in this day and age, we have all these great choices out here for how to be supported in undoing our fear, our scarcity, and stepping into this place where we can boldly serve. I'm going to say goodbye. I see that Dave has to go, Robin has to go, and maybe some folks will show up in the flock room, maybe not. It'll be how it will be. Sayonara, everybody. We'll see you again probably next week for the Holy Shift Show. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.